Do you agree with LeBron James that Goodell owes Kaepernick an apology?
No, I do not. I think LeBron is wrong about this. And I haven't disagreed with LeBron James about much in recent memory. But I disagree with him about this and anybody who feels that Roger Goodell owes Colin Kaepernick an apology. It's not Roger Goodell who owes a Colin Kaepernick apology. It's the NFL owners who owe Colin Kaepernick an apology. Roger Goodell, as the commissioner of the National Football League, was working in concert with Jay-Z and Rock Nation. He tried to get Colin Kaepernick a tryout. He tried to convince the owners this man was not trying to denigrate our flag. He was not talking about patriotism. He was not doing that. He talked about racial oppression and police brutality and equality and civil liberties. Those are the kind of things that Colin Kaepernick was attempting to bring attention to, and the owners, his bosses who pay him, would not listen. The issue is with the owners. Roger Goodell is an easy target in my estimation, and I think that you got 32 owners in the National Football League that have systematically gone about the business of ignoring him while using him as cover to buffer for their negligence. And I think that's the important point that needs to be made here. Every time we look at Roger Goodell and we want to parse and dissect and pick apart everything that he does and doesn't do. The man is not perfect. I get it. Criticism aimed in his direction definitely is warranted on several occasions. There is no doubt about that. But it's not like he tried, and it's not like he co-signed what the owners were saying. But if we had, I forgot what it was, Max. What was it weeks ago when they talked, when it was a former guy, it was a former executive within the National Football League that worked with the Minnesota Vikings, if I remember correctly, and I forgot where he was now. Lockhart, I believe his name was, where he highlighted how owners were saying they actually had information that said if you bring Colin Kaepernick on board, it would cost you 20% of gate revenue at the very least, if not 20% overall. I forget whether it was gate revenue or 20% overall. The point that I'm making is this is what their attitude was. Now, Roger, you want to say Roger Goodell could have been more forceful? You want to say that Roger Goodell could have debunked the wishes of his owners, ignored them, defied them, engaged in insubordination? Okay, that's a different argument. But in the end, what it comes down to is that it's their actions that led to Colin Kaepernick being blackballed from the National Football League, not Roger Goodell. And in the end, when we call about Roger Goodell for an apology, I think it's incredibly important that we remember that.
Sure. I think the owners also owe Colin Kaepernick an apology, but certainly Goodell does. And mainly for, well, I would be giving his intelligence the benefit of the doubt to say he was lying. And I don't think he's stupid. So let me tell you what I mean. In 2016, he said, with respect to Kaepernick's protest, we believe in patriotism in the NFL. We're strong on patriotism. Does he not understand the difference between patriotism and nationalism? I wish I could attribute this quote to the proper person, but the best distillation I've heard is, or I've come across, is the patriot is proud of its country for what it does. That's patriotism. Nationalism is you're proud of your country no matter what it does. So did Goodell mean that in the NFL they believe in nationalism? Because I'll answer it for him. Yes, you did, Roger Goodell. In 2016, the NFL did not believe in patriotism by any reasonable definition. You believed in nationalism and imposed it on Kaepernick. Now, that may have been the owners, and you were the mouthpiece for the owners. Nevertheless, you reflected their sensibilities and unfairly denied Kaepernick the right to make a living in his chosen profession, even though they operate a monopoly and have a responsibility to give the opportunity for jobs based on ability. It's supposed to be a meritocracy. But you were their mouthpiece, and you willingly stated a falsehood, unless you really don't know the difference between patriotism and nationalism. Is that the case, Roger Goodell? Then last year, Stephen A., Goodell came out and said, I think that Kaepernick, how do you put it? He said that if a team believed that someone helps them win, then that person has the job, implying that Kaepernick couldn't help a team win. Now, Roger Goodell is the commissioner of the NFL. He watches a lot of football. Did he really believe last year, sight unseen, right? So you have to figure, even if Kaepernick, who claims he's staying ready and he's shown video and stuff, has declined a little bit year over year, he's still not one of the 64 best quarterbacks in the world. He was like low-end starting caliber quarterback when last seen. There's 64 guys better than him. No, I don't think so.
That's not the point.
And so for him to say he'd have a job if a team thought they could help him win is simply untrue. But the point is, does he owe Kaepernick an apology for stating the point of view of the owners, which is a mistake in definition originally, as an excuse to not give him a job or as cover, and then later, does he owe him an apology for saying he ain't good enough to help a team win?
Okay, we respectfully disagree, number one. Number two, we need to make a correction or modification. I disagree with LeBron if he says Goodell owes Colin Kaepernick an apology. I do not disagree with LeBron if he's saying the NFL owes Colin Kaepernick an apology as opposed to Goodell specifically, number two. And number three, let's remember that an apology is essentially an admission of guilt. And although Colin Kaepernick settled, you don't know what legal remedies he may have available to him in the event that Goodell and the NFL do issue such an apology desired verbally by LeBron James, which means that would be incentive to apologize without specifically mentioning Kaepernick's name because you're worried about legal ramifications because Kaepernick has shown you he would be willing to go that route. I certainly appreciate
your second point. I just need to respond to the first one, Stephen A. I agree that the owners owe Kaepernick an apology. That Goodell was merely following orders, essentially, is not a good enough excuse. So barring legal ramifications, he too owes Kaepernick an apology.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.